Welcome back to the bench. What we have here is our Amiga 500 with its hidden secret of a 500 plus motherboard inside. Let's take the lid off. And let's remove the keyboard. What I wanted to do today is to upgrade this and make it into a fully fledged 500 plus. So that means I've got to clear out the solder from these holes and these chips here and fit the additional RAM chips and the clock. We don't need to fit all the clock circuit. Some of these components down here are for the charging circuit for the battery. But as we're not putting a rechargeable battery in there, we can just leave out the components that charge the battery, and then we can just fit the clock. And hopefully we can also squeeze this little CR2032 holder in there. It should fit. Might have to shave a little bit of plastic off just to get it to miss this capacitor here. So the first thing to do is to get our motherboard out of the case. To do that, we have to first remove it, and then we have to remove the shield, which is held on by all those lovely hex nuts. So the board should come out nice and easy. Just bend this clip back, try not to break it. Okay. So yeah, it's a little bit dusty under there, but not too bad. And then we have to remove all these hex nuts. Lovely. For that, I have a little hex nuts tool. So we can just loosen them off. Hopefully, get it at the right angle. That's it. And that's our motherboard separated from its shielding. This part of the shielding looks pretty good, but on the underside, there is obviously something's been probably spilt on there. A little bit of rust. Save that for later. And there's the printer going. So here's the back of the board where we need to desolder these, and it's a relatively simple job because I have my trusty old desoldering gun. So we'll get that warmed up in a second. Now I am going to solder the chips directly to the board rather than socket them, mainly because if you socket them, then the chips are too high and hit on the back of the keyboard. I did find some solutions for that, quite hilarious ones, where people suggested grinding off the edge of the chips, which, yeah, just sounds absolutely ridiculous. I've already tested the RAM chips, so I know they're all good. We also need to fit our 74LS or 74HE139, which goes here. Now, looking at this board, and doing some research online, it was suggested that Commodore, towards the end of the production of the 500 and 500 plus, had surplus 500 plus boards, so they just stuck them in 500 cases and crippled them as a cost saving measure, which I don't think is correct. I think the plan was to stop production of the 500 board and move on to the 500 plus board, but keep the lower cost 500 machines going. Because if you look here at U32, this chip needs to be present with the extra RAM, but if it's not present, then these jumper points have to be soldered. Now, that has obviously been designed into the PCB so that it can be crippled down to a lower spec. So this was a design choice. This wasn't an afterthought. So definitely they meant for this to go into a 500. So they're only producing one board for both machines rather than, the cost of producing two separate boards. At least that's my theory. Okay, so I'll switch on the desoldering gun, and then we will get to some desoldering. Okay, so we've removed the solder from all our IC sockets where we want to put them in. Or ICs, not IC sockets. I am going to put this chip, the 139, and the clock chip in a socket. But as I said, the RAM chips I'm going to solder directly to the board because otherwise the keyboard just won't go in properly. And I don't really want to go to the hassle of grinding down the edges of the chips. It seems a bit barbaric. Luckily, the filter caps are already in place for these chips, so yeah, don't have to worry about that. So what we have here is a collection of our components. So we have our, I'm going to put my anti-static strip on. So we have our RAM chips. These are 100 nanoseconds, just like the ones that are already on the board. They're a different brand, but they'll work just the same. Of course, our battery holder, which I have already shaved the end off so that it will actually fit into the board like this. So we just need to solder her in place and then she's good to go. IC sockets for the clock and the 139 chip. Here's our clock chip, our crystal, load capacitors, and a few other resistors that the circuit needs to function correctly. And here's our 139s, brand new ones. These are 74 HC series, so yeah, they should be more than fast enough to keep up with the RAM. So we will get these soldered on, and then we can then test her out. So let's start by putting our RAM chips in, making sure we get them into the right way, because if you solder these in the wrong way, it's going to be a pain in the arse to change them around. As you can see, the first one went in nice and easy because the holes are already cleared out. The desoldering station does a very good job of clearing out the solder. Oh, that one went even easier. Okay, and I have just a bit of foam here that I use for, so when I flip it over, they won't fall out. Or at least that is the theory. What I'll do is I'll solder opposite pins on each chip, and then I'll check them to make sure that they are in there correctly before soldering all the rest. Okay, so make sure all the chips are in the correct way, make sure that they're down properly and not lifted that one there seems to be lifted a little bit. So we can just remount this pin here and then just push it down a bit. That's it. So yeah, that all looks good. So time to get soldering. Okay, so that's the RAM chips and the sockets on there for the clock and the 139. So now we just need to fit the battery holder and the passives, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so now we have all our components fitted. The battery holder and the circuit and everything for the clock. It's all there. I haven't fitted the battery yet. I want to make sure that there is no power going back to this socket. I had another look at the schematic, and even though I didn't fit the charging circuit that's located here for the, I'm going to bring that up, this part here. Oh, where's my finger? This is for the charging circuit here, these few diodes and other things. So even though I didn't fit those, the circuit diagram does show that the battery actually connects between ground and VCC on the Oki clock chip. So rather than having a dedicated power input, it goes across the VCC. So yeah, when the computer's turned on, that may feed back power to here. So I may have to put a diode in here after all, which isn't too much of a problem. I can just lift one of these resistors and bodge in a diode in there just to stop it back feeding any power if that does happen. But what I want to do first before I start reassembling everything is to connect this thing up and see if she chooches. Okay, so I have here my video cable. I won't plug in the audio, I already tested the audio, I know it works fine. Okay, we'll plug that in there. Power that, GoTech in. Okay, don't need a mouse because I'm not going to boot up Workbench, I'm going to boot up the diagnostics tools. What else do I need? Keyboard. Okay, so this is the original keyboard that came with this 500 plus in disguise. Oh, come on, get in there. Yeah, there you go. So let's see, and we're recording so we can capture the screen and contact. Looking good. GoTech's reading. Boom! There we have it. So, if we check the memory, we should have, if I've done everything right, 1 meg of chip RAM. Yes! Awesome! So, we have our 1 meg of chip RAM, which is cool. So, yeah, I haven't fitted the escape key yet. I need to get one for it. And the number 1 key, because I don't want to nick it off another keyboard. I was planning on using the keys from the 600, but apparently the 600 keys are slightly different, which is a bit of a bummer. Okay, we need to test the clock. So F7, F3. Okay, so MSM 6242 detected. Okay, it's detected, but it doesn't seem to be counting. Unless, no, it's not counting, is it? F7, F3. No, it's detected, but it doesn't seem to be running. So maybe something not quite right with the oscillator circuit, because this should have a variable cap in it, but I didn't have one, so I just put in a 22 picofarad capacitor, load capacitor, to match the other side. So yeah, I'm probably gonna have to get the scope on that afterwards and just see if I can diagnose if the clock is running or whether it's the chip that's faulty. I can always try another chip in there. But, yeah, I can do that off camera. Okay, so what I also want to test is, with this computer came the A501 Plus. Now it says it's 512, as I said in the previous video, but it actually has 1 meg of RAM on here. Now before this computer, and I even tried it in a normal 500, it was saying 512. So let's plug it in and see if we still get 512 or whether we get our full 1 meg. Okay, contact. And she's booting. Okay, F1. Bingo! We have 2 meg of chip RAM. Awesome. That's good. So now if we add any side expansion or anything internally that goes as fast RAM or slow RAM, Ranger RAM, then we can have way more memory. Woohoo! I do want to fit an accelerator in here. I've been following Stephen Leary's videos on the Terrible Fire. I think is it 356 is the new one. Hopefully that's going to be available at some point. I think it's testing. I'm not sure if it's available yet, but I definitely want to put one of those in here, because yeah, I definitely want a hard drive in here. Curious thing is, when looking at the schematics, is that this actually has 2 connectors for the hard drive, one for power and one for some of the signals that you would find on the hard drive connector. So I don't know whether Commodore planned on making some kind of internal add-on card to give this hard drive capabilities. And maybe they just ditched that idea and then decided to come up with a crappy old A600. I know some people like them, but you know, basically it's just a reworked cut down A500 with a PCMCI port and a hard drive interface. So yeah, it's not really any more powerful than this. So yeah, that works. And the only other thing I did to this whilst replacing those keys, no, not on this one. Oh, I thought I'd done it on this one. Okay, I hadn't done. So yeah, oh, I just wanted to check the battery, didn't I? The battery back. So let's see that. Okay, the go take out the way. Are we getting any feedback power on the battery connector, on the battery holder? Yeah, 4.4 volts. So yeah, clearly I have to put in a diode in there just to stop that. Otherwise, that poor little CR2032 will go pop, and we don't want that. So I'll just sort that out, and then yeah, we can put her all together and hope she still chooses, which she should do. What I will do at some point is get a heatsink added to the Agnes chip just to keep her cool. I think all the rest of the chips stay pretty cool. I don't know, Denise is getting pretty warm. Gary, cold. Paula's quite warm, so maybe a couple of these chips could do with having a heatsink on. CIA's are stone cold. RAM chips, everything. CPU, nothing doing there. So, if you like this video, then give me a thumbs up. If not, give me a thumbs down. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and you can ring that bell icon to get notified of when I upload new videos. As always, thank you for watching.